Good evening, friends, families, colleagues, faculty, administration, trustees, and all of those watching online. Without question, it is my honor and privilege to have been asked to speak this year on behalf of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, the class of 2018. I hope you will join me in congratulating all the graduates. After all the work you've put in, you are undoubtedly ready for summer. I'm quite certain I speak for all the graduates here, particularly if you live in Maine or the New England region, which has seen record amounts of snow in the last 2 years. Now we can safely say spring is here and you have much to celebrate. I would, however, like to address some specifics about this evening's participants in this ceremony. We anticipate more than 810 students will have their degrees conferred. Our 2018 graduates come from 48 states: Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, Japan, Canada, the Cayman Islands, China, Colombia, Germany, Indonesia, Nigeria, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and the Virgin Islands. The range of graduates is truly global, which enriches the depth and diversity of learning, providing perspectives that lift us out of our comfortable norms to examine our fields with greater insight and equity. We learn more from each other in an online world because we are more connected to the world. The challenges and roles the graduates have faced include working full-time, parenting, caregiving of aging parents, military deployments, displacement resulting from natural disasters and political instability. Yet, all of these graduates have overcome these challenges, persisted, and have achieved their academic goals. On a personal note, although she asked me not to do it, I wish to publicly thank my mother, Charlotte Akerman, for her inspiration, who is here with my family today. Hi, Mom. We also welcome the family of graduate Kahinda Alicia. Kahinda's family traveled here all the way from Nigeria for the weekend ceremonies. I hope she's here. Okay. On a more somber note, we remember those who cannot be with us today, especially Master of Public Health student Samson Kabashi and Cameron Stotts, applied nutrition student who both passed away. We also wish to remember Dr. Sandra Featherman, whose leadership as the president at the University of New England from 1995 to 2006 helped sustain and support generations of learners. Our thoughts are with those families and the friends of those individuals. There are many remarkable people in this graduating class. Take, for example, Melina Paiwowski, who last fall endured 2 Category 5 hurricanes, resulting in relocations, and still finished her Master of Social Work. When it comes to those, in the helping professions, as you can see, motivation is more than second nature. As a lead adjunct instructor, I teach motivational theory and classroom management, a core course in the University of New England's master's degree program in education, and have done so for 13 years. So please know that I include all the graduates in my following remarks: public health, nutrition, health informatics, social work, and education, since you are all learners. Now, it may be a contradiction in terms to teach motivation to graduate students. By and large, they tend to be highly motivated individuals. Who else would take on the challenges of an advanced degree while working full-time, raising their families, or balancing relationships with their significant others? Therefore, I would like to share a few suggestions based on my experience as an instructor for future graduate students. Most in this case are hardworking, rule-following teachers, perhaps some of the people who educate your own children in public school. Full disclosure, I am also a middle school principal, hence the culture of education is something I believe I understand fairly well. However, I believe these suggestions will apply to future graduate students in all content areas and make life easier for the challenging journey of attaining an advanced degree. I encourage you to pass this information along to those who will follow in your steps. Number one, if you truly need an extension for an assignment, I will most likely honor your request. It is not necessary to write an email to me detailing your circumstances that exceeds the length of the assignment by 10,000 words. I believed you after the first sentence. Number two, if you are asked to lead an online group of your adult peers in discussion, please remember that the questions you pose to the group will likely be outstanding. You are all adults. You are all professionals. Everyone wants you to succeed. You do not need to send me every question to review 18 to 24 times. Also, please do not have a panic attack, which may result in you asking for an extension on your next assignment. Number three, and finally, when I do ask that you and your group join in an online classroom to have a virtual, real-time conversation with your peers, you do not need to panic, which may also result in you asking for an extension on your next assignment. In my course, you are only required to speak to your peers about the topic for a mere 20 minutes. Past history indicates to me that the average time graduate students in education spend passionately speaking to each other about education is approximately 2 hours and 37 minutes. At that point, there is a sudden realization that it is now well past 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they all need to get up for work tomorrow at 5 a.m. It should be no surprise that those in the helping professions need to talk to one another. In the fields of public health, nutrition, health informatics, social work, and education, you are privy to a wide spectrum of humanity. You all work with an underlying ethic of care, and you encounter such a variety of challenges that in many of the fields, there's the often asserted declaration by those in the field that someday you really should write a book about that. Well, if not a book, a few observations and stories simply to help you maintain your professional balance. I would be remiss not to mention one of my own. I had taken on the role of a first grade teacher. At the time, and I believe to this day, there are not many males in that profession. My first day in that position was September 5th, 1993. The date is emblazoned in my mind, never to be forgotten by me. I stood at my classroom door in a shirt and tie, greeting students as they entered. I wanted to make a good impression and establish a welcoming environment. Enter Haley Jean McNulton. This name is, of course, a pseudonym. She had pigtails, freckles, and bandaged knees. If you can imagine the taste of biting into a lemon, you can also imagine the expression on Haley Jean's face when she encountered me. She retreated 2 steps back and held out an arm to keep other students from entering my classroom. "Where's the real teacher?" she demanded. I did my best to explain that I was, in fact, the real teacher. Stifling an urge to dash for my diploma, I decided to respond as professionally as possible. Why, I'm the real teacher. Haley Jean slipped past me into the classroom and muttered, "Right." Now, the art of critique is a valid exercise in all fields of study. In educators, we should examine and reflect on our practices. In my case that day, Haley Jean made that her life's mission. Haley Jean took the furthest possible desk away from me and glowered over her crossed arms for most of the day, except for times when she felt it was her duty to inform me that something I had done or planned was amiss. This ranged from the placement of crayons that were too high for children to reach on a shelf, or the lack of carpet squares I needed for students to sit in a circle on the floor, which apparently had always been standard practice in kindergarten. Sometime after lunch, I sensed that I might be winning Haley Jean over. I think she liked it when I played the piano and taught the students a song, which she felt impelled to sing at the top of her lungs through the halls, in library, and during recess. I noted that she now propped herself up on her elbows at her desk rather than glowering over them, and her comments had radically changed in tone. She clapped when I said something, or she shouted out anything vaguely related to a concept I wished to teach. Generally, she outvoiced, out-hand-raised, and outran anybody who stood in her way. In short, the day was exhausting for me, but ultimately a success. Students understood the rules and procedures, engaged in hands-on learning activities, and began to trust me. I had managed to establish myself as a first grade teacher on September 5th, 1993. As you may recall, I mentioned earlier that the date was emblazoned in my mind. Haley Jean McNulton made sure of that on the way out of my classroom that day. With the utmost tact, she pulled me aside by the sleeve and pointed to my name and the date, which I had grandly written on the whiteboard. "Mr. Akerman," she whispered, "you know that was a permanent marker, don't you?" And so, with an eye toward the futures of all the graduates here today, I believe you will leave your permanent marks. The stories you share among yourselves of your challenges will help you navigate your way in your chosen professions. You are graduates who will transform the world, one Haley Jean Knowlton at a time. The marks you leave go far beyond names and dates, but this date belongs to you. Thank you and congratulations.